All right, so here is how to use the creature creator. This is for version 1 of the creature creator, so this is going to be showing all the parts that are in version 1. First of all, make sure that you're using Blender 4.2 at least. Don't use earlier versions, or else some parts might not work because of newer geometry nodes. Okay, so first of all, this is the free version that I'm showing, and I'm just going to cover it really quickly before getting into the full version. I just want to show that these are the assets that it comes with. There are a few more in the full version, but these are the ones that exist over here. And I'll also quickly show you all of the different parts that you have over here. So I'm just going to scroll pretty quickly, and if you want, you can pause to see for longer. So that's all of the parts. There aren't too many, just a variety to show you. Oh my goodness, just a variety to show you, how everything works. And if you want, you can add new parts. That's what is good. That's what is good about the free version, is that you have a lot of the switchers and the tools and stuff that I'll explain a little later on. But if you want, you can add new parts, and that's pretty easy. All you have to do is go to Tools and Parts over here, then go to Parts, drop down, find the collection of the parts that you actually want to use. So if you want to add to the mouths, then you turn that on. You can select it right here, and then when you add a part, it should go into that collection. Let's just add in a cube right here. I'll just scale that down in edit mode right here. You can see that is already added to the viewer over here, the part viewer. And if you want, you can select it over here. So now you can have a cube for a mouth. So this is going to be really nice for people who just want to make a bunch of custom parts. You don't have to buy the full thing. If that's the case, you can just use the free version. Okay, so now let's go over to the full version and talk about what is different. So first of all, we have a few different assets over here. We have the draw curve, and we have the hair draw tool, the hair volume tool, and the exolimb tool, like that. So those are the ones that exist that aren't in the free version. And then we have like a whole bunch of parts in the paid version. As you can see right here, we just have like way more parts. I'm not going to show all of them in the video because you can already see all of the ones that exist on the Gumroad product page. So you can just go there to see, the full list. There's a little video that shows all of them. I'm just going to do a basic overview of how things work before I get into more advanced stuff later on, just to try to cover things pretty quickly. So first of all, we have directions over here. You can pull this open if you want to, read everything. I'm not going to explain literally everything. You can read it yourself if you're more of a Blender beginner. But I will cover some basic shortcuts really quick. So, you can select an object and press G to move it around, R to rotate. Let's do it with this. G to move it around, R to rotate, S to scale, and then also Alt to reset it. So Alt-G resets the location. All right. You can also snap parts. So let's do it with the ears. I'll select the ears. So I'm pressing G to move it and then holding Control, and this will make it snap and rotate to, match the rotation of, the part that you're snapping it to, if that makes any sense. I mean, you can see what's happening. That is just these default settings up here that I set for you. So it should snap to faces like that. So press G, hold Control. That's how you snap stuff. You can just press the left mouse button to place it like that, or the right mouse button to cancel, and it snaps it back. Tools and pickers. So there are kind of two main parts or types of parts over here. We have the pickers, things like the mouth, so and the nose and the eyes, things like that. So it'll say picker up here, mouth picker. You go over to the modifier settings right here, and you can change the part index, and that's how you change what part it's using. It's just this number right here. You can figure out which number this is, associated with. You can see that this says 14. This is mouth 14. So if you want This beak right here, we know that's 26. It says it right there. So you can just change this to 26, and then you have the beak. The reason it's different than the Me Maker, you don't have the selector over here, is because you can have multiple mouths if you want. You can select this, press Shift D, and then we can snap the mouth over here, and we can change this to a different mouth. So you can have a bunch of different mouths if you want, and you just select it right from the modifier over here. And yeah, and that's how it works. So I'll delete it with X. I'll just set this one back to whatever it was before. It was like 12 or something. Yeah, so part pickers are all going to have this part index, and that's how you switch it over. Another thing you should know about is this keep centered option. As you can see, when I went to move this around with G, you can see it's staying in the middle. That's because of keep centered. It'll also only rotate on this one axis. That is just nice for the mouth and for the nose, things like that, that you want to stay in the center. You don't want them to rotate all weird. But if you want, you can turn that off over here. And now you can see you can move it wherever you want. If you want to make someone with like a crooked face, you can totally do that. I'll do that over here too. So now you can have, you know, a crooked asymmetrical character like that if you really want to. But those are going to be on by default for some of those parts. Tool, again, it's going to be things like the torso. They'll all say tool up here. You can see it says that. It'll also say it in the asset browser. So the torso, the body tool, we have the arms and the legs. Things like the exo limb is kind of a combination of a part picker and a tool. And then we have the hair tools, which I'll show you how to use a little later. Similar to the part pickers, you also have options over here. So you have things like common things at the top, like body shape. You can change the overall body shape right here. Same thing for the limbs. You have different sections. So we have a picker for the hands. And then if you scroll down, we have this other section for the limbs, the actual arm itself. And so you can have different shapes, things like that. You can turn noise on instead. So this is just using a noise texture, so you can get more random shapes, things like that. If you want it to be really blobby or whatever, you can turn the shape strength up, so you can see it like gets much skinnier, things like that. Limb thickness, whatever. So with tools, you can select them and press tab to go into edit mode, press tab again to exit edit mode, or you can go up here to switch between object and edit mode. So when you are in edit mode, the tools automatically, if they are a curve, you should have this little pencil option. You can see the options over here for the different tools. This is the draw tool. So if you just click, you know, click and drag, you can start drawing and get some really wacky arm shapes like this. You can press Alt S with one of these points selected to change the radius, and you can press Control T to rotate the hands like that. You can also do that in here. There's radius and tilt. Specifically, tilt, that's what I was doing with Control T to rotate the hands. Specifically, the part that you want to rotate is the last point. So let's just switch over to the Select tool. We can select this right here, and then we can change that. You can see that it's spinning, but if we select this one over here, it doesn't spin. Makes sense. This is the one that has the hand attached to it. You can select a single point for radius if you want just that part to scale up. So you can do this to have, you know, a custom shape if you want. Yeah, the Select tool and the Draw tool, those are the two that I recommend using. That's, I think, going to work for most people. But when you have the Draw tool selected, we also have Cursor and we have Surface right here. So Cursor is going to use the cursor right here for depth. So when I draw it right here, it's going to be on the same depth as the cursor. Same thing if I do it from this side, it's going to be right in the middle. So that's how that works. Surface is going to be a little better for other tools like the Draw Curve tool, which I'll talk about later, and like some of the hair tools. So I'll talk about that when I actually get to it. This is the same tool. It's just set to feet instead, or you can set it to none if you want nothing. And flatten will just make it so that the feet are always like flat as if it's standing on the ground. So if you turn that off, then it sticks out at a different angle depending on, you know, the shape of the curve. We also have body tool, which is very similar. It has a few other options like X symmetry and stuff like that if you want to, you know, make different shapes. But this is similar. You can just draw a shape like that. And that's how it works. Same thing with radius. You can select a single point. A lot of the time what I like to do, a little shortcut, to select things while using the draw tool, I'll press C to circle select. Then you can select, you know, a single point, then press right click to get out of that mode. And then you can press Alt S to change the radius of, you know, just the selected thing. Then Alt A is deselect. Using assets. So if you want to use any of these other things, you can see a few things that aren't already in our scene, like facial hair. You literally just drag and drop them. So facial hair, drag and drop it. Now we have a mustache. I can move it around with G, hold Control. Now we have a mustache. I'll duplicate it with Shift D, move it down here. We can switch this over to one of the beards, and now we have a little beard also. So that is the facial hair tool. We also have a few other ones like hats. You can get a hat over here. Let's just set that right there. Move around, experiment. This one has keep centered turned on by default, but you can turn it off obviously. And then we have some other tools like the draw curve tool, hair. Yeah, I'll talk more about these later, but it's the same thing. You can just drag and drop them. This is the other hair tool, which I'll show off a little later. And then we have color options. So color options, you can change the global color, which is this over here. We have this node group. So this will change the color of everything at the same time. So we have the skin color. You can change that. So now our guy is, you know, a little more blue. We have skin 2, which is for things like the eyelids and the lips and things like that. Let's change this to a different one so that, you know, we can see lips a little better. This is going to be for the lips, for the eyelids, and then also things like in the nostrils. You know, they're all labeled. So you have the pupil, the eye color. To see the eye color, you have to select the eye and turn eye color on like that. It's off by default. And same thing for like the eyelids. You can turn those on and off like that. And also eye bags, which will put a, you know, a thing like that underneath. There are a few of those that you can experiment with. But yeah, so check some of these options. I'll dig into more a little later. So yeah, change these. These are like the global color settings, but there are also overrides in most of these parts. So like if you want to change the mouth color, if you want it to be all the same color, you can turn off color 2, which again is for things like the eyelids and the nostrils, the dark parts, and the lips and things like that. So you can do that to make it all one color. You can also invert the colors like this, which will just, you know, flip them. And you can replace them if you want something that is completely separate from this group right here. This can be nice for things like the arms and the legs if you want to make them look more like sleeves. We have different options for the hands and for the limbs themselves. So the top one is for the hand, the bottom one is for the arms. Same thing, the legs, it's the same tool. So you can do that to make it look a little more like sleeves or something like that. Just a few more options to play around with. And if you want to reset all of the colors, you can just select it over here. Just click on it, hover over the top and press backspace, and it will reset back to these colors right here. If that doesn't work for you, I think that might be a Node Wrangler option. So you can just turn Node Wrangler on. It's under Edit, Preferences. Go to Add-ons and search for Node Wrangler. Starts with W. Most of the things you're going to need are at the top, but there are a few others. So like a lot of them have a mirror modifier. So if you, for some reason, want an arm to like only be on one side, then you can just turn the mirror modifier off. That's how a lot of things are mirrored. And we also have this shrink wrap and blend normals thing, which will just make it so, let's do it for the ears. You can see how the ears look kind of like they're attached to the head. When we turn this off, you can see now it looks like it's separated. So This is just my attempt at making it look like a separate object is one object, like it's two things fused together. And you can actually change the target object. So right now the target object is the body right here. But if you wanted, you know, for instance, if you wanted the nose to look like it's connected to the mouth part, because right now it doesn't, there's kind of a seam right there, you can just select that part, go over to the Shrinkwrap modifier, and then, you know, clear that, use the eyedropper, and you can select the mouth. And now it looks a little more like it's blending into the mouth part right there. And I think this is when I will go into more advanced tips and tricks. So this is all you really need to know up until this point to use it. Similar to blending parts together like this, I encourage you to definitely try blending things in unconventional ways. For instance, I'll just set this back to be blending with the head. For instance, if you want, you could, like, you know, move the ear so it's kind of inside. If you want, you can push it in a little further like that and have an ear that looks completely different like that. You can also, like, scale it on, like, a weird axis or something like that. There are also scale options in the modifier itself. So if you want, you can scale it up on the x-axis right here to make it a little longer. Now it's a little more rabbit-like or something like that. Another thing that I think is really fun about this shrink wrap and blend option is mixing mouths together. So for instance, I think a good one to mix, or good ones, you can mix the puffy cheeks with something like this one over here. Or you can mix things with, like, the jaw, things like that. So I'll just show how to do that really quickly. So 12 and we'll do 12 and 13. We'll mix together. So I'll set this one to 12. I'll duplicate it right here and set this to 13. And so I want to make this one right here blend with this mouth right here. So the shortcut to go to selection, you can hover over this, press E, and it turns into an eyedropper, or you can just clear it and then use the eyedropper right here, select this mouth right here, and now it should look like it's blending in with that mouth in particular. And I think that is funny. So you can experiment with that. You might find some good options, like maybe mixing in some of these bug mouths. I think that could be fun. Let's talk about the hair tools. So the hair tools, just like anything else that has tool in the name, you can select them and go into edit mode with tab. The hair tools, both of them are a little different. So the hair volume tool, this one right here, it works with box modeling. So you can just model whatever shape you want basically, and it will fill it with, you know, these poof balls. You know, for instance, I'll just make something kind of quick and dirty. So yeah, you can just make weird shapes like this or whatever. There are a few options, so you know, can play with the hair size right here. I did make this so that it's hollow. So if you make something that's huge, it's going to get slow, but it's not completely filled with instances. So I did try to optimize it at least a little bit. And I don't usually see holes in it, so it seems to be working okay. You can also replace the color like most things, and there is a second shape called curls. So you can have some curly hair like this, maybe turn the size down a little bit. You can have some curly hair. Then we have the hair draw tool. So I think that's down here. So this is what it looks like by default. I just wanted to give something that actually looks a little bit like hair. I think the poof ball works fine as just a ball, but yeah. So this, you go into edit mode, this is actually made of curves. There is also an X symmetry option. So I guess one thing that you could do is maybe go into select mode. You can just select things and maybe turn on proportional editing up here. Now turn off connected only. You can use the scroll wheel. You can like move things around like that. Or if you want to make something completely from scratch, you can just delete it with X, go back to the draw tool. And I think this is a good time to change this from cursor to surface. And now you can actually just draw like directly on the head, like that. So we have this like long strand of hair. And you can turn on X symmetry to symmetrize it like that. That's basically like a mirror modifier. So you could have, you know, some hair like this. It works pretty well drawing on the surface. If you use Alt-S to change the radius, that will, let me turn proportional editing off. Instead of making the hair strands a different size, that will just push them apart. So you can use it that way. But we also have the option to change the amount of strands per curve. So you can turn that down to, you know, a single curve if you want, like that. By default, I think it's set to 20. We also have spread, clump, which will make things, you know, clump together into points like that. And then the hair thickness. So if you wanted it to be more realistic, you could set it lower and then turn the hair amount up. But this will start to get laggy if you add too much. What else? Then we have noise. If you want to make it look like the hair is really messy, you can turn the scale up or whatever. You might need to add some resolution right here by maybe turning it down, but it will get slow if you turn the resolution down too low. As well as using it to draw directly on the surface like that, you can just set it to cursor. If you want hair that is like sticking out like this. I actually do find it a little easier sometimes to work this way for certain types of hair, and then you can just like kind of duplicate it and, you know, scale it and rotate it and things like that. If you're going for like a different hair style or whatever, you can, you know, do something like this. You have to kind of place it a little more carefully, but immediately we have kind of a funny hairstyle. So that's how the hair draw tool works. The draw curve tool, which is it's a very like simple tool. By default, I made it so it just looks like eyelashes. So you can get an idea for what you could use it for. Basically, it's the same idea as with the hair draw tool. It's just for drawing details and things like that. So I'll just come in here, delete it. Just in edit mode, and then I'll draw on the surface, and we can draw some some eyelashes or whatever, things like that. There is also this other option in here. If you have it set to surface, you can use this drop down to do only first, and that will make it so the first point is attached, and then it sticks out from there. It's not perfect, but, you know, I'm trying to go really fast. I think this might be better for things like whiskers. You could draw whiskers like that, and then turn on the mirror modifier so we have lines. You could also use this for like wrinkles or forehead lines, things like that. So we have, you know, this person looks a little older now. If you want, you could, you know, if you want, you could use this as like a tool to make a mustache or something like that. And this also works with Alt-S to change the radius. There's also noise options. So just like the hair draw tool, you can add some noise to it to give it a little more randomness. Change the resolution if you want more fine detail. So right now you can see how far these are apart. If you turn the resolution down, they will get closer. It will get kind of slow eventually, but if you're adding things like noise, then this will help you get higher detail. As you can see, when I turn it up like this, you have quite a bit of detail, but too high, like to 1, then it becomes a little more jagged. So it's kind of a trade-off, really. We have voxel size for the body and the limbs. So that is usually at the bottom. You can turn that up to make it lower res, or turn it down to make it higher res, like that. So if you're working with something like arms that you want them to be really thin, I could turn the thickness down quite a bit, like that. You can see at a certain point it starts to kind of get jagged, and that's a point where you might want to turn the resolution down, or the voxel size down, and then it looks a little cleaner compared to that. So yeah, you might want to do that. If you want to make a new part, I already talked about how to do that in the first part, but if you want to do things like add these lip colors, or, you know, use the second color, then open up the parts. I'll go to the mouths, and I'll just select this first one. We'll just duplicate it, and I'll show you how it works. Gonna move the cursor over here, go into edit mode. I'm just gonna delete it, add a cube, just make something really fast. Say I want to turn this center face dark. Well, first of all, if you're making your own parts and you want them to use these colors and stuff, make sure it has this this modifier called attribute migrator. You can just add a modifier, geometry nodes, and then set it to attribute migrator, and also make sure that it has a vertex group that's just named 2, and then that's what you want to assign these faces as, like that. So you can see it just made it a little darker, but you can also turn the weight down to something pretty low to give it more of a, like, you know, to make it lighter or make it look like it's more gradual, things like that. It's the same for things like eyes. Just make sure to check the vertex groups. So this is pretty similar. You can see we have a few different vertex groups for things like the top lid, bottom lid, eye color, pupil. You know, if you wanted the pupil to be over here, you just assigned that part as the pupil, and there you go. I might change how this works in the future. It's just that you can see that I select this one face and all the faces around it get changed. I might make it so that it just only works on the faces that you have selected instead, but that'll take some time, so it will probably not be until the next version. Next is converting this to a mesh if you want to like rig it up and stuff like that. So to do that, let's just first of all move the cursor back to the center. This is pretty easy. All you do is just select all these parts. I'll select the body first, just click and drag to box select everything, and then right click, convert to mesh. And that will make it so that all of these modifiers are applied now. Another thing you can do before converting it, if you go into wireframe and you notice that something is like higher resolution than you want, basically, you can go over to render properties, or is it simplify? You can turn that on, and that will basically turn off all of the subdivision surface modifiers, and you can kind of turn them up to whatever level you want. If you only want one subdivision, you want it to be a little lower res, you could apply it like this also. So, you know, just select everything, right click, convert to mesh, and it will actually, you know, be applied at that level that you have when you're using simplify. Then yeah, you can rig it up. So usually I get better results rigging when these are all separate parts, but if you want to join them together, then all you have to do is select, well, first I'll select the body, so that's the active selection. Then same thing, I'll select all the parts and press Ctrl J, and everything becomes joined to the body. So you can see over here now, in this creature collection, we only have one object because all of these are joined together. So now you should be able to rig this up, and you know, hopefully it'll work properly. If it gives you any trouble when you after you join it together, like if it gives you like a bone heat weighting failed or whatever, that's like a common error, you can just come in here and separate them again. So come into edit mode with tab, select everything with A, press P, and separate by loose parts. And that will split everything into separate objects again. And then you can try the automatic weight again, the automatic weighting, and it might work a little better for you. But yeah, have fun with this. And thanks for watching. Have a good one.